December brings Christmas, September brings iPhones. All of us have gotten used to this cycle. On Tuesday, Apple unveiled their latest iPhone. It's called the iPhone 15. And what's the big headline? Well, there isn't one. There hasn't been a headline for a good 5 years, in fact. Yet, Apple is not slowing down. It is the most valuable company in the whole world, meaning they are doing something right. Let's try to understand what. We are looking at 5 questions tonight. Number 1, what's different about the iPhone 15? Nothing major, just small things. All models get a USB type charger. You also get brighter screens, better cameras. The high-end models come with a titanium frame, so more strength. One slightly notable difference is the action button. For this, you need to buy the Pro or the Pro Max models. But what does the button do? You may have seen this slider on the side of most iPhones. They put the device in silent mode. In the new models, that is gone. Instead of the slider, there is an action button. You can customize it the way you want, maybe to open the camera or to turn on the flashlight or start recording a voice note. Other than that, it's mostly the same, which raises the second question. How expensive is it? In the United States, the iPhone 15 has a base price of $799. The 14 was priced the same last year, so largely no price difference. But here in India, Apple has to answer some questions. Let me show you a comparison. We're looking at the price of Apple's top-end model, the iPhone 15 Pro Max. In India, it starts at 1,60,000 rupees. And abroad, much less, 99,000 rupees in the United States, 124,000 rupees, 1,24,000 rupees in Britain, 1,15,000 rupees in Dubai, and 1,20,000 rupees in Vietnam. So between India and Vietnam, there's a price difference of 40,000 rupees. That's around $500. With that money, you can go to Vietnam, buy the iPhone, and return. If you don't like Vietnam, then try Dubai. My point is, the prices do not make sense, especially when you realize some iPhones are now made in India. That's right. Apple supplier Foxconn has a plant in Tamil Nadu, and they make the new iPhone 15. They will hit the market along with the ones made in China. So common sense says they should be cheaper, no import taxes, lesser transport costs. So technically, made in India iPhones should be cheaper. Why aren't they? Well, only Apple can answer that question. Their CEO Tim Cook said he wants India's middle class to buy iPhones, but at these prices, well, good luck. Now to question number 3. How does Apple keep doing this? I mean, growth without innovation. How do they do it? After the iPhone 11, most models have been the same. You could argue that they're faster, they have better cameras, but those are not game-changing features, really. Yet Apple shares keep rising. When iPhone 11 came out, Apple was trading at around $50. That's $50 per share. And now it is $173 per share. What explains this growth? Apple's marketing. Most people don't think of the iPhone as just a phone. It's a status symbol. It's a luxury. At the same time, it's a lifestyle choice, what many call the Apple ecosystem. Some marketing experts have compared Apple to a religion or a cult. And the numbers prove this. Apple has a customer retention rate of 90%. 9 out of 10 customers stay with Apple. They swap their iPhone for another iPhone. I don't think even cults have 90% approval rating. And the Apple leadership knows this. Listen to CEO Tim Cook at yesterday's Apple event.
An iPhone impacts just about everything we do. They're with us all the time. And if you left either one at home, I bet you'd go back and get it.
Which brings us to question number 4. What next for Apple? Where are the challenges? Well, geopolitics is a big one. Apple is stuck between the United States and China now. Recent reports said government employees in China had been banned from using iPhones. At first, Beijing did not say anything, but today they broke their silence. China says there is no ban on purchase or use of iPhones, but they did flag some security issues.
China has not issued laws, regulations or policy documents that prohibit the purchase and use of foreign brand phones such as Apple's. But recently, we did notice a lot of media exposure of security incidents related to Apple's phones.
So no ban yet, But there could be one in the future. Politics aside, Apple's biggest challenge will be innovation. Consider AI, artificial intelligence. It is said to be the next big thing in technology. If Apple can harness that, it could be game-changing. And there is already talk of this. Reports say Apple is spending millions of dollars every day on AI, millions every day. Some of it is low-key, like using AI to improve existing features. For example, Siri. Apple says Siri is 25% more accurate because of AI. If they can build on this, great. If not, customers will get tired of this routine. New models, same features, and a huge price tag. This customer fatigue is already happening, in fact. It's our fifth and final question. What's happening to the smartphone market? Well, it's shrinking. Sales in 2023 are expected to be down by 6%. That's around 1.15 billion devices. I know it sounds like a lot, but it's actually the lowest in a decade. In the first quarter of 2023, around 294 million phones were sold. In the second quarter, 268 million phones. Sales are being dragged down by China. Despite that, Apple is the least affected. They sold 46 million phones in the first quarter. They sold 45 million in the second quarter. Apple today makes up 20% of the global market. Before the pandemic, it was 13%. So the company is doing something right. People know there is little or no innovation. People know they're paying too much. People also know that other phones are available, yet Apple's domination continues. I guess it is a cult. And now let's take some break from our planet and talk about maybe our future planet. Scientists at NASA have made a new discovery. They think water could be present on the surface of another planet. This one is beyond our solar system. It's more than 100 light years away from the Earth, meaning it'll take 100 years for light to reach this planet from the Earth, and about 9 times the size of the Earth. Scientists say this is a massive planet. It could have an ocean. As you can imagine, this is rare. This planet is unlike anything else in our solar system. I don't know how to read celestial bodies, but I can predict your next question. Can this planet support life? Here's what we know so far.
K2-18b. No, this isn't the name of Elon Musk's next child. It's the name of a planet. A massive one. It's 8.6 times the size of the Earth. And it's not just any other planet, it's an exoplanet, meaning it's beyond our solar system. It's more than 100 light years from Earth, and it's unlike any in our solar system. Here's why. NASA used its James Webb Space Telescope to gaze at this planet. They've made an exciting discovery that hints at a possible water ocean on the planet. Scientists found methane and carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. This combination means the surface could be covered with an ocean. This isn't the first time this discovery's been made. In 2019, scientists used the Hubble Space Telescope. They spotted water vapor in the same planet's atmosphere. So, if there is water on the planet, does that mean it can sustain life? Not really. There's no proof that the planet can support life. Its size is too large. That could create difficulties. The planet's interior could have a large mantle of high-pressure ice, kind of like Neptune, or the ocean might be too hot to be habitable. The 2019 study mentions another problem.
The planet is located in a system more than 100 light years away, meaning that whatever image we try to get is the image of the planet 100 years ago. The light takes only 7 to 8 minutes to come from the sun to the Earth, but 100 years to go to that planet. So for us to travel there is impossible.
Even so, this shouldn't dash hopes of futuristic planetary colonization for all the billionaires out there. This is probably not the last time signs of water have been found on a planet, but it certainly isn't the first. In 2014, scientists found evidence of water vapor on another exoplanet. It was roughly the size of Neptune and about 120 light years away from Earth. But the lack of a guarantee on prospects of life on another planet need not be seen as a disappointment. You see, these revelations are less about colonizing another planet, or finding a planet similar to Earth, or even finding fun aliens. They're simply a gateway to more insight on other planets in space.
And now let's turn our gaze to the southern part of Africa, to the nation of Zimbabwe. 3 weeks ago, the country saw an election. The incumbent, Emerson Mnangagwa, won his second presidential term. It should be his second and last term in office. After all, Zimbabwe claims to have moved on from the past. It says the days of autocracy are over. But is that really the case? Mnangagwa's new cabinet says otherwise. He's appointed his son and nephew to key government posts. His critics have raised the alarm. The opposition have accused him of nepotism, of planning to bring family rule to Zimbabwe, of bringing authoritarianism back to the country. Now, a little background here. Africa is no stranger to nepotism. You saw in the recent Gabon coup how the Bongo family was entrenched in the country. In Equatorial Guinea, the president's son is vice president. There are many examples of dynastic politics across the continent. And then there's Zimbabwe, a country with a history of authoritarianism. Before the current president's first term, Zimbabwe was ruled by one man for 37 years. His name was Robert Mugabe. He's the current president's old mentor. Mnangagwa served as in Mugabe's regime in various positions, including as vice president. He became president after Zimbabwe's military replaced Mugabe in a coup. That was in 2017. At that time, there were promises of change and progress, despite the fact that same political party was in power, and Mugabe's right-hand man was given the charge. He won elections in 2018, and then again in 2023. Both were controversial. This year, observers from a South African regional bloc said the polls in Zimbabwe were not free or fair.
The mission noted that some aspects of the harmonized elections fell short of the requirements of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, the Electoral Act, and the SADC principles and guidelines governing democratic elections.
Observers from the European Union said the same thing. But Mnangagwa returned to power nonetheless. You put all this together, and you can see why Zimbabwe's opposition is worried. Last week, the winner, this man, took the presidential oath again. And he's been courting controversy ever since. These pictures are from last Friday. That's the president overseeing a graduation ceremony and handing out an honorary doctorate to his wife. That's right, his wife. That's the First Lady. She is now an honorary doctor of philosophy in law. And it's not her first honorary doctorate. Last December, she received a doctorate in development studies. Again, an honorary doctorate. And both these certificates were conferred by her husband, the president. They allegedly for her philanthropic work. Whatever the reason, this is not a great look. A president heaping awards on his wife. But it may still be better than what Zimbabwe's president did on Monday. He brought one of his sons to his cabinet. 34-year-old David Mnangagwa is now Zimbabwe's deputy finance minister. He was sworn in yesterday. What experience does he have in governance? Well, none. He graduated with a law degree last week. Before that, he was an actuary. Do the qualifications make up for the lack of experience and obvious nepotism? Well, that's for the people of Zimbabwe to decide. Maybe look into who awarded those degrees to the president's son. And other than the president's son, the president's nephew also found a place in the cabinet. He's been made Zimbabwe's deputy tourism minister. This nephew is 45 years old. He's been involved in party politics for a while. So he's another loyalist in the president's cabinet, another member of the family. When you look at the rest of the cabinet, it's mostly the same from his first term. It includes ministers with a poor track record, like the sports minister, Kirsty Coventry, a former swimmer under whose tenure football left Zimbabwe high and dry. Last year, FIFA banned Zimbabwe for 18 months due to government interference in the country's Football Association. That doesn't really speak well about her term. But when questioned about the return, Zimbabwe's president had this to say.
I am satisfied. I don't know who's not satisfied. When you become president, you can remove that.
He's also brought back a man called Kembo Mohadi as vice president, the man who had to resign because of a sex scandal in 2021. These appointments look murkier by the day. An opposition leader put out this message after Zimbabwe's cabinet was announced. She called it a toxic mix of illegitimacy, corruption, violence, nepotism, incompetence, and sex scandals. Harsh words, but are they accurate? Will the president do anything to change this perception? Or will his focus be on propping up loyalists and paving the path for his children to take over Zimbabwe? Our next story comes from Japan. This country is known for many things: rich culture, technological innovation, even sushi. But if there's one thing it's not known for, it's gender equality. Japan is now trying to turn that around, and we'll tell you how. They're starting with political representation. Today, the Prime Minister of Japan, Fumio Kishida, announced a cabinet rejig. There were a lot of changes, but the most important one was this. The new cabinet features 5 women. This is the first time 5 women will be part of the cabinet since 2014. In all, there are 19 ministers in the cabinet, so technically, women now represent more than a quarter of the Japanese cabinet. It's on par with Italy's female ratio. But Japan still lags far behind other G7 members. The government had initially committed to 30% women representation by 2020. Soon they gave up on that goal. And now they want to meet the target by 2030. They plan to offer babysitters and create a fund to support female candidates. So this rejig by Prime Minister Kishida is a step towards it. Now, Japan's history is steeped in tradition. Men are looked at as breadwinners. Women are seen as caregivers, like in most traditional societies. These roles are deeply ingrained in the Japanese society. Children are taught these norms from an early age. So women often find themselves on the fringe of political power. And it shows in global reports. Like a report on gender parity by the World Economic Forum, it ranks Japan 125th out of 146 countries. And that's really low for a developed nation. On gender parity in politics, Japan ranks 138th, even behind China, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey. And that's saying something. So this cabinet representation is a good step. It is Japan acknowledging that it needs more inclusive leadership. Of course, it's a move that deserves applause. But beyond that, what does it really change? Around 10% of Japan's lawmakers are female, so not many women join politics in the first place, and this creates a disparity to begin with. You need a wider pool of women lawmakers to select from. And for that, you will need more women to join politics, so that should be a priority. Basically, it should be a bottom-up approach and not necessarily a top-down one. Secondly, it's all about changing mindsets. Many nations have adopted a quota system to ensure that women are adequately represented, but to the Japanese, this quota system is often unfair.
Many people in Japan think of a quota system as unfair and biased and giving extraordinary privilege to women. No, but it's the other way around. The existing system gives too much privilege to men, and particularly men from political dynasties.
Thirdly, it is essential to ensure that these are not just symbolic gestures. Prime Minister Kishida may have appointed more women ministers. But what's the larger policy? Is this a temporary move ahead of snap elections? And while giving them a seat on the table is important, it is also important to ensure that voices are heard. It is important to make sure that they can contribute to real change. Let me give you the example of Rwanda. This is one of the poorest nations in the world we're talking about, nowhere near Japan in GDP, but 61% of lawmakers in the Rwandan parliament are women, 61%, and this reflects in their policies too. The policies support equal rights for men and women. Women are given equal opportunity. Rwanda's gender pay gap is 86 cents to $1, one of the lowest in the world. So representation matters only when it is backed by policy. It matters when it is not just a token gesture. Japan's decision to appoint more women in the cabinet is commendable. It's a step towards gender equality. It sends a message that progress is possible in the face of deep-rooted tradition. But this is the first step of a marathon. It is not the finish line. The real work has just begun. Japan has taken a step forward. It needs to stride ahead to dismantle stereotypes and provide equal opportunity. And now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. If you're curious about what aliens look like, do not worry. Mexico has them out on display for you. Two mysterious non-human alien corpses were displayed at Mexico's first public congressional hearing on UFOs. In China, a real-life episode of The Crocodile Hunter is playing out. Dozens of crocodiles escaped from a breeding farm during the floods. And in Hawaii, the restive Kilauea volcano is roaring back to life. It erupted for the third time this year, spewing lava. And finally, we're taking you back in history. On this day in 1993, Israel and Palestine signed the first Oslo Accord. It was the first of a pair of agreements signed on the White House lawns. This was the first time Israel and Palestine recognized each other. The accords were the closest the two sides have come to resolving the conflict. Eventually, it ended up in failure. We're leaving you on that note. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.